Petr Yan just beat Diaz and Figueiredo in an all-time back-and-forth main event in China. Overall, this was a really fun card. We had a whole bunch of stoppages. It looked like one lady died, and I'm going to recap the entire thing. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to walk you through the entire UFC Macau fight card. Before we dig in, before I recap the fights and some bets, I want to share some old Italian wisdom that has worked its way through generations. My father said this to me. His father said it to him. Our great-grandfather, Antonizio, said it to him. And basically what he said is, Angelo, don't bet on a random Chinese fight the cards. And I wish I had Antonizio's wisdom with me today. Because Antonizio was a very wise old man. And he's not wrong. Betting on a random Chinese fight the card isn't always the best thing to do. But as you can see here, Jakey Boy did quite well. I was down. I lost a little bit of money. Antonizio had the advice, and I should have followed it, and I have brought shame upon my family. But Jacob did not. Jacob not only put up a 70% ROI by himself, he made so much he covered my small losses. So overall, successful night for We Want Picks. 8 units out the door between the two of us. So a pretty conservative night on both sides. And again, Jakey Boy did really, really bad. The only bet he lost was the Nyam fight. That was a split decision. I will walk through that. I actually thought that was the correct decision. I got smoked. Feng Shi was an interesting fight. Feng looked like she died. So much so that the broadcast was giving you updates throughout the night. Every 40 minutes, a quick update on Xiaocan Feng. She's not dead. She is not dead. I know she looked like she died. She's not dead. There's your update. We'll give you another one in 20 minutes. That was the broadcast. But overall, successful night. Considering how wildly sketchy this card was, it was a successful night. If you're a premium member, you made some money. 15% ROI combined. More than 1 unit net profit combined. If you only tailed Jacob, you did quite well. So overall, pretty good night. If you want to unlock everything for the rest of this year, it's only $10. We have 12 units on the board right now. Between UFC 310 and UFC Tampa, there are 12 units of bets sitting on that website waiting for you to jump in. The absolute tear that we're on lately, yeah, I was down a little bit. I also was up 11 of the last 12 cards. Jakey Boy made so much he covered any losses that I had. Overall, We Want Picks has been crushing the last couple of months. So let's ride this train through the end of the year. 12 units of bets right now on the board for UFC 310, UFC Tampa, and obviously more to come. You can unlock all of those. You can unlock the tools. The data analyzer is built out for all future cards, not just the next week. Line movement tracker, ready to go for UFC 310. All the picks, the bets, the tools, the breakdowns, the prop hunter, and everything else. Only $10 for an entire month. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. Let's enjoy the rest of this weekend preparing for not only Thanksgiving. I got to start stretching my waist out, get ready to... That's my Super Bowl, but also UFC 310. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top to unlock literally everything you could ever want or need. Let's talk about the fights. First fight of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, my time. Jacob's lock of the week gets it done. Second week in a row, Jacob's underdog lock of the week pulls through, and he looked good the entire time. This seemed like a pretty straightforward win. It wasn't a dogfight necessarily either. Nikolas Motta was just cleaner. He was faster. He was more aggressive. Maheshate had early success. I believe it was a knee right up the middle. Had a little bit of success early and then just did nothing with it. And Nikolas Motta took over. That experience, that aggression, the striking just took over. Kept moving forward. Kept making things happen. He was a little faster, a little cleaner, and that aggression ultimately got him the win. I also picked Nikolas Motta. I didn't have the nuts to bet on him. Probably should have, but maybe if I did, I would have jinxed it. But Nikolas Motta, second lock of the week in a row for Jakey Boy. Congratulations to him. And he was always a very good fighter. The question was, if he slugs it out and Maheshate hits hard, what are we going to get? And it didn't matter because Maheshate didn't really let his hands go. He let Nikolas Motta dictate the pace. He backed up. And that was the analysis, right? He has a really good success moving forward, doesn't move back as well. And Nikolas Motta kept him on his back foot. Maheshate really couldn't get going, and that's ultimately what happened there. Then we had a pretty fun fight between Long Xiao and Quang Li. Long Xiao was landing heavy shots. Lots of pressure. Really, really good calf kicks. And then we had a durable Quang Lee. He was durable. He was fun. He was scrappy, a little sloppy. What was interesting, though, is he did get those calf kicks. Those calf kicks were chewing his legs up, and he is coming off that short notice fight just, 6 months ago against Chris Gutierrez, who has nasty calf kicks. And the commentating team was like, oh, he's definitely prepared for the... He didn't look prepared for the calf kicks. Long Xiao was landing them and landing them clean. The pressure was great. I thought Long Xiao looked pretty good. And this was just an interesting fight where he was moving forward. He was a little bit ahead. He seemed to be dictating. The power was taking over. Ultimately, in the third round, he ended up finding the finish. So Long Xiao absolutely blasted Quang Lee. Quang Lee drops and just and gets it done. This is a fun fight, and it set the tone for the night because honestly, when I was looking at this card, I was like, we have a lot of small people on this card, right? Lower weight classes, everybody's fast, not a ton of dangerous people. This is going to be a lot of decisions. And we did not get a lot of decisions. There certainly were decisions, but we didn't get a lot. There was a good back and forth scrap on a couple of fights. There was some danger out of nowhere, a couple of come from behind victories. Overall, this was a pretty fun card, and this kind of set the tone for that. This sucked a little bit of juice, took a little air out of the room. Loner Kavanagh and Jose Ochoa, both of these guys have a ton of finishes. Both of them are very good. They're both very aggressive. You watch their regional tape, and you're like, this is going to be a scrap, and we're going to get a finish in this fight. And thank God it wasn't a 2.5 round line. If it was a 2.5 round line, I would have bet the under. It was a 1.5, and I was like, that's a little tricky. So I stayed away because I would not have guessed this was going to go to a decision, but it did. And it was a weird fight because Loner Kavanagh didn't do much, right? He wasn't very busy. He was lightning fast. Any strike he threw got there, and he got there in a hurry. So he was fast. He was clean. And the commentating team kept talking about, oh, he's so composed. Look at his composure. This is impressive. He's only 7-0. Look at the composure. And yes, he was composed, but composed is just a fancy way to say, look how slow and boring this guy is. Because he was lightning fast. So not slow as in like physically slow, or mentally, my bad. Slow as in he's not doing much. When he threw strikes, they were there. So ultimately, Loner Kavanagh won because he was a little faster and he threw a little more. This was essentially a staring contest with some fast strikes. What I will say, though, first round, kind of boring. Loner just, really good footwork, controlling the distance, but just pop, footwork, pop, footwork. I definitely said footwork, but whatever. Then we get to the second round. More of the same for 90% of the round. Then the end of the round, Jose Ochoa has some real success. He gets Loner Kavanagh in trouble. Looks like he drops him, gets him in trouble, was really trying to make something happen, had a ton of success at the end of the second round, and that's where the tides could be turning. That's where things could be changing. But no, third round comes, and it's just more of the same from Jose Ochoa. He doesn't build on the momentum that he built at the end of that round. So I don't know what that was about. Because it was clear, hey, if you move forward and you throw at him, yeah, he's crazy fast, but you could turn this into a brawl. You're obviously losing the technical battle. So turn this into a disgusting brawl. And he didn't. And I guess that's the inexperience of a 7-0 fighter. They were both 7-0. And I guess that's the inexperience on the Jose Ochoa side. Loner Kavanagh, he got his first UFC win out of the way. It was the first fight. It was in a foreign land. We'll see what he looks like, but I don't know. I just didn't leave that being like, this is the prospect that I thought he was. He was as fast as I thought he was, not as aggressive. We'll see what happens in his next fight. But, he got it done, and it was very clear that he won that fight. But if there was a moment where somebody almost finished, it was definitely Jose Ochoa. Then we had Carlos Hernandez and Nyam. And this was a split decision. Jacob feels strongly that Nyam won this fight. I woke up at 4:30. So this fight had already happened. So I went back and I watched it in between the breaks and all that. I was watching the previous fights. So I watched this fight knowing the outcome, and that may have affected my view of it. It looked like Carlos Hernandez won to me. It looked like literally the control. And I know you guys complain, control doesn't matter in 2024. The control was the difference. Carlos Hernandez had a couple of nice takedowns, and when he had the takedowns, there was control. He kept the fight there. He worked to the back. Like the grappling exchange won him the minutes, which ultimately won him the fight. Nyam was closer to finishing. He had great power. The finishing ability you can tell is there, but he's almost too aggressive. There were multiple times where he had Carlos Hernandez in trouble. Like at the end of the first round, he had a great rally, but then he blew it because he was chasing. He got too aggressive, fell off the top, threw up an armbar. That slipped out, and then it ends with Carlos Hernandez on top. And that was sort of the story of the fight. Carlos Hernandez was somehow a little more composed, was capitalizing on Nyam chasing finishes. Nyam would land with power, then go crazy, end up on the ground. Nyam gets it to the ground, goes crazy looking for a finish, ends up getting swept. So ultimately, Nyam won this fight chasing finishes. And we do love to see finishes as fans. We love to see aggression as fans. So good for Nyam trying to finish a fight and not just try to point fight. But ultimately, it's that aggression that lost him this fight, in my opinion. If you watched it not knowing the outcome and you were waiting for the scorecards to be read, let me know in the comments if you felt it went the other way. But knowing the outcome and watching, it just felt like, yeah, I can see how Carlos Hernandez won this round. He was on top most of it. And yeah, he got rocked, he got wobbled, and Nyam threw whatever, and then Nyam slipped his dumbass off, and Carlos Hernandez ended up on top and ultimately secured that round. So that's how I felt that fight went. And unfortunately, let's say a prayer for our girl, Xiaocan Feng. I said earlier, the knockout was so bad, they were literally giving us updates throughout the night. She didn't die. Hey, everybody, I know it looked like she died. She's not dead. We promise. I didn't see any footage of her not being dead, so we'll see. This is how she left. That's how they got her out of the cage. So we'll see what happens. But they were doing everything possible to tell us that she's not dead. And hopefully she isn't. That would be very, very bad for everybody. The fight was frustrating. The over 2.5 in this fight was in the safety parlay. The near-death experience was in the third round. But what was frustrating about this fight is Xiaocan Feng's a very good wrestler, and she didn't shoot any takedowns. In fact, she got taken down in the first. But it also set the tone. Xiaocan Feng was clearly much taller and longer, and obviously her game plan was just be big, be long, be tall. And she was piecing, she was touching up, she was winning some of the exchanges. Ming gets a takedown. They weren't on the ground 10 seconds before Xiaocan Feng full sweeps her. Not a scramble, like a straight-up jiu-jitsu sweep. Full sweeps her, ends up on top, and it was like, oh, okay, Xiaocan's the better fighter here. Look what just happened in that grappling exchange. It was clear as day. But then, instead of going back to the grappling, instead of sticking with wrestling, which is what Xiaocan is very good at, she just continued to play this point strike game. And she was winning the point striking game. She was a minus 2,000 favorite going into the third round. So she was very clearly winning this fight. And then ultimately, this Hail Mary kick from Ming knocked her out. Knocked her out. She ended up 4 minutes unconscious. 4 full minutes she was unconscious. That is not good. And then she ended up being removed in this situation. This will be a meme forever. This will be meme for RIP my bets. And then this is going to be you're going to see it all over the internet for a very, very long time. Very unfortunate. That's how she went out, but they're assuring us that she's not dead. What is interesting, you get some tidbits from the commentary team. Ming is a doctor, and Ming parents don't even know she's a professional fighter. So she is TikTok famous. Parents don't know. They're old. What do they know? They don't know where she is right now. They think she's at some conference or competing in wrestling or just something like that. They don't know she was just fist fighting on worldwide broadcasted television, which is pretty funny. They'll eventually find out, which is going to be an interesting dynamic in that household. And this is another one of my bets. This is my bet getting smoked. I bet on Kiru Sahota. I thought for sure the length, the reach, all of that would work well for him here. He could stand a million miles away and just kick the shit out of your body. Literally kick the body, kick the legs, kick the head. He's so long, and we've seen him do that in the past. He's also super aggressive in the clinch. He'll get a tie plum in his knees from a mile away. Ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-ba-boom. So it's this guy should get it done through a little bit, just a teensy-weensy bit of money on him as an underdog. And, well, that looked dumb as hell because 2.5 minutes in, this guy got blasted. And it was brutal because he had opportunities, didn't even use them. At one point, they were in the clinch. They were in a plum, and he seemed to be the one in control of it. His hands were up top. He was in control of that plum and didn't do anything with it. And then instead, he just got smoked. Instead, Dong-Hoon Choi, in close quarters, lands an incredible combination. I don't remember the exact sequence, but it was boom, 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 boom. Everything hit. His head was snapping back, falls to the ground. Done. So, Kiru Sahota, too chinny, not aggressive enough. I couldn't imagine being one of the tallest guys in a division and then not using that reach in the biggest opportunity. Couldn't imagine. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. I took a nap during this fight. Like, this fight sucked. Nothing really happened. This is Su Young Yu and Balgan Janusli. Yeah, so sorry. I got nothing to say about this fight. I was tired. This was not an exciting fight at all, and didn't watch. Did watch this one, though. Ozzy Diaz and Mingyang Zhang. Is Mingyang Zhang the Shavkat of the light heavyweight division? All wins, all finishes, 100% finish rate. He's got knockouts, submissions, TKOs. I mean, he literally could be the Shavkat of this division. And to have a big, strong, light heavyweight like this doing what he does is needed. That division's kind of like, okay, we watched Alex Pereira knock everybody out. Maybe Carlos Ulberg is next. We'll talk about that fight, but like, we need to start building some people up in this division. And Mingyang might be the next evolution of this division. We don't see much outside of the incredible striking, couple of takedowns. He hasn't fought very long, but he looked good here. Obviously, the caveat should be Ozzy Diaz is a blown-up middleweight who's a little chinny. So Ozzy Diaz is by no means great. This was going to happen the whole time. That's why I had him in a parlay with Carlos Ulberg. But Ozzy Diaz couldn't handle it. Mingyang came in. You can see here, this is an elbow. He knocked him out with a standing elbow, just came forward, boom, and got it done. Ultimately, he looked fantastic. I do want to see a little bit of a step up. I want to see who they give him next. I do think they should build him, though. Don't rush him. Don't throw him into some random-ass fight night main event and turn him into a joke because you pushed him too soon, too fast. He's from a part of the world with a gazillion fans. But I do want to see, let's get who's the next. Who's the next? Let's build on that. Like what they're doing with Bo Nickel. Slowly giving him better and better people because I think Mingyang could be a big deal in the future. Then we have that other half of that parlay. I had Mingyang parlayed with Carlos Ulberg. And Carlos Ulberg won this fight. It was a pretty clear win. But I got to say, he looked a little off. He seemed to be breathing heavy. He wasn't really letting it go. Maybe he was worried about the takedowns. I don't know what it was, but he seemed a little off. Volkan Oezdemir actually had a good amount of success. I'm surprised the scorecards didn't say this fight was closer. I believe this was a 30-27. I'm surprised it was that clear in the scorecards because if you watch the actual fight, Volkan had some success. He was blasting Carlos Ulberg's legs. He was moving forward. He was the one pressuring, and we had a lot of Carlos Ulberg stepping off. And honestly, Carlos Ulberg, he won this fight. So I'm about to bitch about him, but I'm not saying he didn't win this fight. He won this fight. I thought he did. The judges thought he did. Very clear. But I don't think he looked that good. This was his opportunity to be like, I'm the next guy in line for a title. You have a high-level kickboxer now, Pereira. I'm a high-level kickboxer. I should be next. That's not the performance we got. Because part of the problem for Volkan is he's like a wobbly guy. Because it was so many times you're like, and he's like, no, he's fine. He's just literally like a wobbly dude. And he's a bald, very pale white guy who swells and gets red and a little bloody. So it looks like things are a lot worse than they actually are. Because all we really got was Volkan moving forward, connecting clean. Like Volkan was landing. Carlos Ulberg gets hit. I'll tell you right now, if he fights Alex Pereira, he's getting slept. He gets hit. But he's got good counters inside the pocket, and there was a lot of move back, get hit twice, step off, boom. And because Ozdemir's a little wobbly, it was very dramatic looking, and ultimately Oezdemir lost. Why he didn't full-blown try to wrestle, I don't know. I don't know how you get touched up in the first 2 rounds, don't switch it up in the third, but it is what it is. I don't know why I thought he looked off. Maybe I was off. I was just exhausted. It's early in the morning, but Carlos Ulberg just didn't look like an aggressive killer, which is what we've seen in the past. In this fight, he was literally breathing heavy with his mouth open. So maybe that was just nerves. Maybe it was the travel. Maybe I'm just wrong, and I'm fine. And sometimes I just breathe with my mouth open. Then we had one of the biggest upsets in history. Literally one of the biggest upsets in the history of this sport. I think, at least the UFC. God knows what happens in some of these other random promotions. I think the literal biggest upset was when Holly Holm beat Ronda Rousey. And this was almost the exact same thing. Kong Wang, which is somehow pronounced Wong Tang, W-A-N-G is pronounced W-O-N-G, and Kong is Tang, like the drink. No clue how you get there. That is no clue. None whatsoever. I understand you mix in or whatever, some inflect. Well, where does the T come from? Anyway, Cong Wang. There's no way I'm going to say Wang Tang. Cong Wang was having success. She had Gabriela Fernandez rocked a couple of times, starting to style, was having success with the strike. Very clearly the better striker. She was touching her up. She was cleaner. Very clearly the better striker. Gabriela Fernandez had almost nothing to offer. Every now and then she'd fire like a left or a right and it would hit. But Cong Wang didn't give a shit. She just kept moving forward, ate it, kept walking. Like they said in the commentary, it's almost disrespectful how little she cares about what's coming her way. And that is, honestly, she literally was like, I don't give a shit. Kept moving forward. Then, because this is MMA and anything could happen, Gabriela Fernandez lands a big-ass leg kick that has Cong Wang like out of sorts, and then a huge straight that drops her. Gabriela then pounces on her and gets the sub. In the future, people will just look at the stats because some people are like lazy as shit, don't watch the tape, just lazy. They're going to look at the stats. Or they're going to look at Tapology and just see a green dot and whatever. And they're going to be like, Gabriela Fernandez got the submission win and she was the better grappler. This had nothing to do with grappling. Nothing. This was Gabriela Fernandez dropped her, basically had her knocked out, and then just pounced. So Cong Wang, the problem is going to be now all that aura. I mean, she shows up, the Joker face, flipping the coin, doing the bang, all of it. It's kind of embarrassing to do that again when you just got smoked like this. So I don't know what it's going to look like for her in the future. She was feeling herself, as she should have been, coming off a spectacular UFC win, and ultimately looked good in this fight until she didn't. And it sucks because the UFC was definitely trying to get her and Valentina together. They were trying to build their own Izzy Alex narrative because in kickboxing, as you know, Alex Maheshate smoked Izzy. So they brought Alex in, rushed him to the top. They fought each other. They had a plot line. Same thing here. In kickboxing, Cong Wang smoked Valentina Shevchenko. So I think they were trying to bring her in, build the plot, get them together. Not going to happen. Two problems. One, got finished. It is what it is. The second problem is she needs to take some time off. You cannot come back that quickly. Because if she comes back that quick, she might continue to get knocked out. Her striking offense is spectacular. Defense isn't. And can't come back without taking a significant, meaningful break to give your brain some rest, or you're going to do some permanent damage to your career. Then we had another interesting situation. This card, the fact that Jacob made as much money as he did, the fact that We Want Picks, the combined Angelo and Jacob are up money this event, crazy. Not only up money, and this is all because of Jacob, not only up money, but a 15% ROI over a unit of net profit on a sketchy card. And here you go. Muslim Salkov was the favorite. I picked him to win. But Muslim Salkov's not necessarily a finisher, not at 40 years old. And typically, Kenan Song is a durable guy. That's not what we had. That is not what we had. Kenan Song had a little bit of success. He wobbled Muslim Salkov and then does what he does, makes dumbass decisions, shot a takedown, stupid as hell. That's what he does. But he looked physically huge. Like, the size difference between these two guys is crazy. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, old man Salakov, spinning heel kick, boom, knocks him out. Toppled that tree, got it done. Two local guys in a row, and obviously I know he's not local. Two local guys in a row, or two local fighters, smoked. Just smoked, finished. The air in the room was like... So, good for Salakov at 40 years old, pulling this off against a pretty durable guy that others have struggled with putting away. Song Kenan a great fighter? No, but he's got power. He's durable, and we didn't see that here. He got smoked. Muslim Salkov got it done. The funniest thing is, Jacob's underdog lock of the week was Nikolas Motta, and he won. Everybody else's underdog lock of the week, go check the video. All the comments, no, bro, it's Tabitha Ricci. No, bro, it's Song Kenan. I'm not riding with you this week. All of everybody's favorite underdogs, all the public underdogs got smoked. All of them got smoked. Volkan, Oezdemir, they all got smoked. Jacob picked the perfect underdog lock of the week. Because everybody loved Tabitha Ricci too. Tabitha got smoked. This fight was not close. There was a 5-second exchange where Yan Jinan got a little too aggressive. She was having too much success, got a little too aggressive. Tabitha Ricci capitalized and ended up like on her back for literal 3 seconds. And then Yan Jinan just stands up, pushes her away, and goes back to work. She beat the shit out of her. Like, she beat the shit out of Tabitha Ricci. And it's unfortunate to be Tabitha Ricci because she has all the physical abilities, but none of the skills. And it sucks. And we talked about it. I talked about it in the quick picks. I've talked about it in 10 videos this week. Tabitha Ricci has insane cardio. She clearly, every training video she has ever posted is her jumping between ladder rungs on the ground and doing some fast twitch bullshit. It's never training videos of her shooting takedowns. It's never training videos of her hitting mitts the right way. It's always just working out. And that's awesome because what you can control in this sport is your conditioning. And it's very important to be in phenomenal condition because that can win you fights. You could be the worst fighter in better shape and win. The problem is, as you move up the ladder and as you beat people with conditioning, you're going to have to start fighting people with better skills who also have conditioning. And that's what we had here. Yan Jinan wasn't slowing down. What she was doing is beating the absolute shit piss out of Tabitha Ricci. Just blast her in the face. Do whatever she wanted to do. Defending these half-ass trash takedowns. Smoking her in the face. Tabitha Ricci needs to start working on her fight skills. I couldn't imagine if my job was a professional fighter and I'm riding around in a Mazda Miata with some ginger boxer and I'm not getting better at boxing. I couldn't imagine it. That's your job. If this was my job, this is not my full-time job. If this was my full-time job and all I did was have Tapology on in the background and give out dog shit insight and picks, what are you doing? What are you doing? And that's the equivalent of Tabitha Ricci. That's her job. This is her job. And instead of focusing on the job itself, in my case, giving good insight, giving good picks, making sure the website works, instead of focusing on the fighting skills, she's focused on staying in shape. It makes no sense. That's like if all I did was focus on, I don't know, scrolling at the correct speed. It makes no sense. Your skill, I know that analogy was a fucking disaster. I'm not even going to edit that out. It is what it is. She's focused on the wrong things. As much as I trash fighters who don't have cardio because you can control cardio, so I appreciate that part of her, but maybe take 10% off the cardio training and work a takedown or two so you don't get absolutely smoked in these fights. And then we had the main event. This was a dog fight. This was an incredible fight. What I will say, I thought Petr Yan won. I was worried they were going to screw him. This guy's been screwed many times before in decisions. I was surprised to hear it was a 50-45. Diaz and Figueiredo didn't win a single round. And I don't know which round you would give him because for the most part, Petr Yan did better more than half of each round. But not one judge gave one round to Figgy. I was surprised at that because Figgy had his moments. He dropped Petr a bunch of times, had a nice clean, the fight started 10 seconds in, boom, beautiful takedown to the point where it's like, uh-oh, we got a problem here. And this was everybody's, another favorite dog on the card. The people love Figgy. They loved him. And early it looked good. But ultimately, Petr's composure, his power, the better striking, ultimately it took over. So yeah, Figgy's got some power, had a little dog in him. He almost quit. He was starting to quit. Complaining about gloves, and it looked like he was fading. Like if it got tough, he was going to quit. But he didn't. Credit to him. He didn't. He kept bombing back. Had Petr in trouble a little later in the fight. This was a great back and forth fight. Ultimately, Petr's pocket striking, the uppercuts, he was grabbing the back of the head and just blasting uppercuts. The pocket striking, the uppercuts, takedown defense, some of the scrambles on the ground. Petr was better pretty much everywhere. It was a dog fight. We've seen some dog in them in the past. This was one of the best fight night main events we have seen in a very, very long time. And you can't take anything away from these guys. You can't look at Figgy and be like, oh, Figgy blew it. Figgy ruined his opportunity. Figgy's washed. You can't do that because he's up a weight class, fought the number 3 guy in the world, former world champion, and he made it an absolute dogfight where he had success. He had takedowns. I don't know if there was officially recorded knockdowns, but he had Petr in trouble more than one time. Ultimately, this was a decent fight card. Safety parlay almost died on the stretcher with Jinan Feng, but Jakey Boy did quite well. And not only did he do well on this card, not only have I done real well, 11 of the last 13 fight cards, we have 12 units of bets for the next 2 events. 12 units for the next 2 events. UFC Tampa, UFC 310. If you're not a premium member, I don't know what you're waiting for. Every single week, We Want Picks is putting up phenomenal bets and making some very real money. And not only that, you get tools, insight, and more. Unlock all these bets right now. It's $10. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. You are going to get tools like the Data Analyzer. When we end with UFC Tampa, there's a couple of week break, and then we hit up the new year and the new fights for that year. The Data Analyzer is preloaded with data for fights clean out many, many months ahead of time. So you can start to do that research early. Find your spots early before lines go crazy. You have access to the line movement tracker. You have access to the prop hunter. You have access to the DraftKings Optimizer, which is preloaded with the best DraftKings ownership projections on the planet. And then you also have access to a random dude from New Zealand who has never brushed his hair and an artificial intelligence. All of these things, $10 for an entire month. We have a couple of spectacular fight cards left this year. Unlock it all, you cheap, cheap sons of bitches. Thanks for hanging out. It was an early day. Appreciate you.